Hey everybody, welcome. Welcome to day 18 of the Ballad of Garvin Hackett. So for those who are new, we usually go through an intro. Welcome to live screenwriting, the Ballad of Garvin Hackett, a movie script being written completely from scratch. So we're watching live writing. The logline of the movie is The Ballad of Garvin Hackett is an ironic, darkly comic take on 90s action movies, kind of like Forrest Gump meets Scarface, directed by Sidney Lumet, so the laws of physics actually apply. And instead of going the traditional development route, I'm writing this movie in public directly for you to visualize later, maybe as a cinematic graphic novel. So, grab a notebook or keyboard and write along with me. And if you're in the chat, I'll say hello, everybody. It's kind of my ritual because nobody's ever in there. One day I'll be surprised. So grab a notebook or a keyboard and write along with me. If you have any ideas, throw them in the chat. And if you want to follow along from the beginning, you can check out the Liminal Boundaries Channel, which is right here or in the description. Links in the description. Okay, so where are we? Write with me, live screenwriting from scratch, day 18. Today we're doing synthesis on Garvin Hackett. What is synthesis? Well, we've done a lot of research. We've applied the research. Now we're going to see how much of the stuff that we've synthesized, and we might have to continue applying some of it, which means formatting it in a way that reads more quickly, and then we can actually apply it to the story and see how much we can apply there. I think we're very close. If we can get good synthesis done in this short stream today, I think we'll probably be able to get started with the outline, which is the fun part, when we start actually putting it together into the story. So let's get to it. So, we had the research questions we had been working on are those about Roger Gust and Whitey Jackson. So who is Roger Gust and who is Whitey Jackson? Let's get into that. So let's go for the characters. Roger Gust. And let's get Whitey Jackson. Alright, and let's go with Roger first. Okay, so if I'm doing my job, and this is actually a good test to see if my character sheet works, this should tell you everything you need to know about Roger Gust. At least give you the essence. So his name is Roger Gust. He's a tabloid reporter, kind of like Robert Downey Jr., playing a cross between Jerry Springer and Geraldo Rivera. His game is to maximize his ratings. His strategy is he's very unscrupulous about it. I'll put shameless too. Unscrupulous and shameless. Yeah. And so he makes 4 major decisions throughout the movie. The first one is he ambush interviews Garvin's mother on camera about the death of her husband before the police have had a chance to notify her. The second decision is he asks Garvin to give him tips before Garvin kills his next victim. So Garvin's going to go on a revenge spree, and eventually Roger's going to figure out that it's Garvin, and he's going to, tell him, hey, he doesn't remember him. Well, maybe he does remember him. We'll figure that out. But he's not going to scoop the name because then the story ends, right? So he asks Garvin to give him the tips before Garvin kills his next victim, preferably at 8 p.m., so we can catch it live. He probably doesn't want to reveal Garvin's name, too, because Garvin could kill him. And let me write that down, because that's something that I need to put in there. He doesn't reveal Garvin's identity because Garvin would kill him. I found them first. I'll find you. I'll find you first. I like that. Nice. Little quote there. And then let's go back to where we were. So, his second decision is to ask Garvin to give him tips before Garvin kills his next victims. preferably at 8 p.m. so we can catch it live. Maybe use the wallet here. So the wallet is the charred wallet that he finds at the scene of the crime where they killed Garvin's dad. That's how he knows where to find Garvin's mom. And then in the third decision, he interviews Garvin's girlfriend, Tammy Lynn, who reveals Garvin's identity. So Tammy Lynn doesn't do it, but Roger doesn't reveal his identity, but Tammy Lynn does. And then decision 4 is he interviews Garvin after the massacre. When Garvin actually figures out who killed his dad, that it's the people he works with, he massacres them. And that's the big massacre at the end. Okay, so he's got a show. It's called Panic Button. It's a tabloid, show name, and it's a tabloid crime show. And this is just a note, what if a hurricane hits? Just sort of a set piece idea. Doesn't belong here, but maybe I'll put here set piece idea. Because hurricanes are fun. What if a hurricane hits? What if it's hot? I haven't thought of that either. We can play with that. Okay. And I used to have these decisions here, but this is all the stuff that is the research that we've done. So this is what we're going to synthesize. Okay, but before we go into that, because this is the work, let's get a little bit more perspective on the scope of this. Because we got Roger, and then we got Whitey. So Whitey, his real name's Michael. He goes by Whitey. He looks like 30-year-old Samuel L. Jackson, very dark. I'm going to just put very, very dark. Yeah. He's like what, like blue dark, very, very dark. And then his game is to get things done with minimum effort possible. And his strategy is sloppy and ruthless. Actually, you know what? Yeah, get things done with minimum effort. Yep. And then his strategy is sloppy and ruthless, shortcut taker. He'll make a mistake, usually from carelessness, and then just through sheer ruthlessness correct it. So, for those of you who are new, Whitey is the button man for the Vanta gang. He works for Joel Gillette, who's not too relevant in this session, but he's the one who kills Garvin's dad, but he does it by accident. And then he ends up training Garvin to get revenge, and then he sicks him on the rival gang. That's the beginning of the movie. So, decision 1. He skips verification about who he was supposed to kill and puts the bomb under Garvin's dad's car by mistake. That's his first decision. As you can see, it's careless. He doesn't check. Decision 2, he defies the police officer that pulls him over. He can't get tased. I discovered in my research that instead, this happens in 1991 when this happens, when he gets pulled over. Oh, yeah, the movie takes place in 1991 in South Florida. I should put that in... Yeah, I'm going to put that in the description of the movie altogether. Let's fix that. So... Oh, no, it's early... Yeah, okay. Yeah. It's fine. That's not really a... It's sort of a log line. It's not really talking about what his what the story actually is. So I'll leave it there. Okay, so back to Whitey Jackson. So his first decision is to skip the verification about who he was supposed to kill, and he puts the bomb under Garvin's dad's car by mistake. He doesn't check. And then decision 2, he defies the police officer that pulls him over. He gets clubbed, ends up in prison, but not for the bomb that kills Garvin's dad. And then decision 3, he trains and sponsors Garvin. And then decision 4, he doesn't check when he kills Garvin, and so Garvin eventually kills him. Right? So that's, he's not detail oriented. And then notes. Whitey Michael Jackson is careless but ruthless. Why he's called White, he's very dark. The joke in his neighborhood, the pork and beans, was he's the blackest guy in Overtown, so they called him Whitey. And then he's perpetually late. And he's a black supremacist, or as he calls himself, an ethnocentrist. So he's kind of philosophical. And his ideology is he's an acolyte of George G.M. James, who wrote Stolen Legacy. It's a pretty famous book in that sort of black ethnocentrism historic genre. Why is it giving me that? Interesting. I'm going to call it ethnocentric. Fine. Okay, so he was born in 1958, and the location is Overtown, Liberty City, and his neighborhood was public housing, the Pork and Bean. No mom or dad in the picture. He's raised by his grandma, who worked long hours as a domestic maid or hotel worker on the beach. He went to Dunbar Elementary School before his family was displaced by the creation of I-95. So they cut the neighborhood in half. And then he went to Drew Middle School, and then Miami Northwest Senior High School. And then he dropped out in the 9th to 10th grade, 1972, 1973, at around age 14 or 15. Okay, so this is the research that we got here on him. Again, we got to synthesize this. This is a lot, and we don't want this to be a book. We want it to be a screenplay. So we're going to integrate this into the story. Let's go back to Roger for a second, and let's look at his story. Look, we got a bunch of stuff here to do too, right? This is what we're working on today. So his story. Roger discovers James Robert's charred wallet and wants to get the story. The interview. James Robert Hackett's charred wallet and wants to get the interview. And the first escalation is he interviews Garvin's mother before the police have notified her of her husband James Robert's death, and ends up covering Garvin's revenge walk live, abandoning Garvin's mother. Good so far. Roger meets Garvin. He sees Garvin at a crime scene and bribes Garvin to give him an interview, or at least tips ahead of his next killing. Garvin refuses. So you see here that this escalation and the first escalation, they're actually quite similar to the decisions he makes, because it's a character driving the plot. Escalation 3, he interviews Tammy Lynn, revealing Garvin's identity, and then Tammy Lynn reveals Garvin's identity, right? And then twist, Garvin tips Roger off. Garvin calls Roger, tells him where to meet to get his story, and then that's the Vanta massacre. So Garvin finally says, you want your interview? Here's the interview. And then resolution, he finally gets the interview with Garvin and at the Vanta Gang massacre. It's kind of how it ends. Okay, notes. The interview, Roger shows Garvin's mother the charred wallet. Oh, that's a good one. He waves it, shows her, or pulls out the wallet. Pulls out the driver's license. His last drive. Oh my God. Great. And then Roger meets Garvin. Roger Gust and a James O'Keefe moment where okay, yes. So yeah, so we got a lot to look at here, but let's just keep going, because we got the Whitey, the story of Whitey Jackson isn't told yet. So we got the character, the story of Roger, we got the character of Whitey. Let's go over the story of Whitey. This is getting our heads back into context here. Okay. Let's see. Setup. So he wants to be on top in Joel's gang without putting in the work. So that's basically Whitey Jackson's game, right? So that gets set up. All right. And then, so we know what he's after. And then the first escalation is skip the verification about who he was supposed to kill and puts the bomb under Garvin's dad's car by mistake. He doesn't check. Great. So that's matching his character sheet. So that's character driven. Gets pulled over by his broken taillight and runs when the cop finds weed and a Colt 45 in his trunk. Yes, that's a good escalation. And also kind of a decision. I think it's the same as his character. He trains Garvin so he doesn't have to do the work himself. And then he turns Garvin in when he thinks his job is threatened. And he has henchmen finish Garvin off. And then Garvin actually killed the henchman. And then resolution, Garvin kills him. So you see kind of some implementation of his character stuff. Okay, and let's see. And then this is all the Whitey background. So let's see what we got here. Let's just start with Whitey. Let's do one more. Whitey, Joel. So fill this in with the story relationship between Whitey and Joel, which is more frustrated manager having to deal with an overconfident and unconscientious employee, which is kind of like the relationship there. So we'll go setup, right? Get Joel to believe he has what it takes to be top enforcer in the Vanta gang, right? And maybe just get Joel's, get Joel's respect and admiration. That's really kind of what it is. He wants Joel's respect and admiration. So his first escalation one is, kill head of Booby Boys gang. And then we put here that he botches it. And then escalation 2, get self arrested. Okay, then escalation 3, scheme to have Garvin finish the job. Right, escalation 4. Ask Joel, or get Joel. So I'm trying to figure out what what this is. So he's basically in this escalation 4. That's when he realizes that Joel is actually fine with him in prison, right? Because Garvin's doing such a good job, right? So get credit, ask for credit, I guess. Yeah, ask for early release with Joel's contacts, right? And then here we go, Joel says no, and he tells him Garvin is doing his job better. And so escalation 5 is he turns Garvin in, and then for a shorter sentence, but they don't do anything about Garvin. And that's like an interesting scene there with the police, where the police don't do anything about Garvin because he's doing their job for them. Okay. And then escalation 6. So Joel tells Garvin that he's gonna meet Whitey. He's gonna go pick him up from jail, and that's not an escal. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe Joel does this. Yeah. So, yeah, Joel sends Garvin to clean Whitey's car and pick him up. Right, and then escalation 7 is Whitey hides Joel in the panic room. So he can take care of Garvin. That's really the last big escalation, and then the twist is Whitey doesn't check that Garvin is dead, and then the resolution is Joel fires him. Or maybe kills him himself. That'd be interesting if Joel killed Whitey. I never thought of that. Yeah, and that's the resolution. And of course, Garvin then kills Joel. So yeah, that was pretty quick. It's a good story. Good enough for government work. So let's go back to that. So now we built it out. That's the story sheet. It's good. So let's go back to Whitey Jackson. Okay, let's just work our way back from Whitey Jackson. So boom, 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 boom. What do we have here? That makes the story much more tragic and tightly wound. Whitey, this is partly pasted from AI because I have to pull stuff out of it. So he's a puppet master pulling the strings from behind the bars, directly routing Garvin to Vante Gang's pocket without Garvin even realizing it. Yes, that's right. So let's see. Garvin's cellmate. He's not Garvin's cellmate, but let's just put he's a puppet master. I like that. All right. Okay. Bars. Training Garvin. Training. Routing Garvin into the Vante Gang's pocket without Garvin realizing it. I mean, I guess. Okay. By using dirty visitors, Whitey stays in touch with Joel's crew. Yes. So how he stays in touch. That's important. How he stays in touch. Crooked lawyers. Prison payphones. I got a research question there. Bring us to the bottom. Research question. Let's just put this with the police. Were inmate calls recorded or surveilled in the 90s when they called from prison payphones? Let's see. This is a good question. Okay. Where were we? Crooked lawyers, prison payphones, dirty visitors. Okay. I got a kid coming who's cold, loyal, and does exactly what I tell him. Go pick him up at the garage. Yep, I like it. To reflect this setup, we will slide the timeline slightly forward to the climax, hits late 1994, and we will let the natural historical overcrowding mechanics of Florida prison systems do the heavy lifting for Whitey's automatic early release. Yes. So we can just put that. The natural, the historical, not natural. Historical overcrowding mechanics of Florida prison system do the heavy lifting for Whitey's automatic early release. Which is true in the early 90s. That was the situation. In the 90s. Okay, so 1991, Whitey uses a car bomb to assassinate Garvin's father. The very next day, a grieving, erratic Garvin waves an unlocked machine gun at a cop and is arrested. Whitey is arrested shortly after on his felony drug charges and parole violation. This is very much kind of a story thing, so it doesn't belong. It's like too many stories. It's not just Whitey's story. So I'm just going to take it and I'm going to put it where? I'm going to put it into Garvin. And I'm going to lay it in the outline. I'm just going to throw it into the outline. And I'll do it right here. Nope. Oh, great. There we go. All right. And then we can. Okay. Late 1991. Oh. Let's see. So, why do you use a car bomb to assassinate Garvin's father by mistake? Okay, the very next day, a grieving, erratic Garvin waves an unloaded machine. No, later that day. Not the next day. Later that day, as a cop is arrested, Whitey is arrested shortly after on his felony drug charge and parole violation. Great. And we're in the world section, so we'll go. Give us a little title. And then the debate section comes later. And this is basically where we're going to throw all this stuff when we're done, like synthesizing everything. We got the midpoint. So, and then Act 3. Oopsie. Okay. And Garvin gets to the panic room, and instead of Joelle, finds Whitey. There's a standoff. Yeah, maybe that's an interesting idea. Okay. All right, so that's that. We threw that into the outline. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make the outline a separate thing so that I can get back to it quickly. So where were we? We were... I think we were in his story. Okay. Get Joelle, okay. Nope. His story is tight. That's Whitey Joelle, that's why. It's Whitey Jackson. Here we go. Whitey is a puppet master pulling the strings from behind bars, directly routing Garvin. And this should be notes. Okay. And then crooked lawyers. I got a kid coming who's cold. Okay, the historical overcrowding mechanics. Okay. Revised chronology, the cataclysm, we took care of that. That goes away. The trap in the muck. Early 19 new Lake Butler to Belle Glade. Both men passed through the RMC processing hub and are assigned to Glades Correctional Institution. Yes. Yes. So I forgot which one the muck was. RMC, the muck. I think that's the muck. Processing hub and are sent to Glades Correctional Institution. Let me just double check that. Just go into a little bit of research. Hey, Gemini. What does RMC stand for when people were getting arrested in the early 90s and they were processed to Florida something something? And then there was the Glades Correctional Institution. What are the official names for them? And which one was called the Muck? And was there a nickname for the Glades Correctional Institution as well? Or was there a nickname for the other one? Can you answer concisely? Can you answer concisely? Okay, let's throw that in. Let's see how we're doing. Reception and Medical Center in Lake Butler, Florida. Yep. Glades Correctional Institution. It closed in 2011. Glades State Prison Farm and Florida Farm. The nicknames. Because it was originally a harsh agricultural labor camp, it was widely known as the farm or the muck. referring to the thick, dark soils of the Everglades agricultural area. RMC usually referred to as Lake Butler, but those who have been through by those, okay, cool. So let's take that, and we're good. Let's go back to writing. All right, so let's go back to Whitey. Okay. Okay. Early 1992. Both men passed through the RMC. And the RMC stands for Reception and Medical Center, located in Lake Butler, Florida. And then okay. Called Lake Butler. Okay. And are assigned to the Glades Correctional Institution, widely known as the Farm or the Muck. Okay. Glades Correctional Institution. Okay. We got that. And then okay. I'm gonna create like a new file. This is characters. I got notes, right? Ideas. Oh yeah, this is good. So I'm gonna put prison system. And I'm gonna go back to Whitey Jackson. Nope. There's it. Yeah. Copy this. Actually, I'll cut it. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Let's just yank it. Really? Let's go this way. Now yank it and notes. Paste it, and I'll go back to Whitey. Yep. So I can take this historical stuff out. And then okay. I don't need this. Just working our way through this stuff, seeing where, where it applies and where to put it. Both Garvin and Whitey. Okay, I'll throw that into the notes. To Jackson, so we don't need this anymore because that's not really crucial to the story. It's just good to know about the muck and Lake Butler because that's going to be in their dialogue. Glades. Glades Correctional Institution. Okay. Garvin is victimized in the open dorms because he won't stop talking about his father's murder and revenge. Yes, that is a scene. So that's going into Garvin's story. Where's Garvin? Because there's a story there. Story A, Garvin. Okay. Yeah, so there's an escalation 1.5 we're bringing in. Escalation 1.5. Garvin gets victimized. Yep. He is promptly arrested. Okay. In prison, Garvin won't stop talking his father's murder and revenge. And gets victimized. In the open dorm. In the prison open dorms. In the prison open dorms. Garvin won't stop talking about his father's murder and revenge and gets victimized. And then Whitey steps in with his offer of protection and training for revenge. Okay. Jackson convinces his father, officers train Garvin so he can avenge his father's death. Offers protection and training for revenge. Great. Okay, so we've just added that little escalation 1.5 where it belongs. We'll go back to just cleaning this stuff out. Okay, Whitey Jackson. Garvin gets selected for the early provision or release due to prison overcrowded. Before he leaves, Whitey tells him, I'm going to set you up with people on the outside. They'll look after you. So that is going here into the Garvin outline. In here. Escalation 2.5. All right. Yep. Cool. And something, his mother abandons him, so that's a before the training. That's right here. It's the offer, and then his mother abandons him, and then he gets here. Okay, so he's got nothing, so that's why it helps him make the choice, right? And let's take this story A and pull it out. Okay, and then what do we have here in the story? What's the story itself? Oh, that's just the sub-stories. Okay, cool. All right, and then let's go back to Whitey. What are we doing? Mid-1993, Garvin is transferred to a Miami halfway house as part of the mandated work release program. He gets a low-wage job pulling parts and turning wrenches at a junkyard garage and gritty industrial park like Medley. Perfect. So that's excellent. And that will go into story A, right? And this just goes right here. And then, right, escalation 2.6, I guess, right? Garvin is recruited by Joel to work in the mansion. to eliminate the booby boys. Right? And then you can put here. Yep. Let's see where we got. So Garvin is transferred to Miami Halfway House as part of his mandated work release program. He gets a low-wage job pulling parts, turning wrenches into an auto junkyard garage in a gritty industrial pocket like Medley Northwest 36th Street. And then the Vanta gang comes and picks him up. So I'm seeing like another, like a B character appearing here, which is the henchman. I don't have a name for him yet. Which probably, man, I have so many people that I know that I could model him off of. But yeah, the henchman's going to be the one who picks him up and stuff. Okay. And then, let's see, I have notes, don't I? Did I get out of that? Let's see, where's the notes? I'll throw my notes. There it is. Yeah, probably need a B player character to be the henchman who picks Garvin up. At the garage, and later shoots him and gets shot by him. Okay, at the in the last scene. Okay, so I got that, and let's go back to character Whitey. See, nope, I want the story. Whitey's story. Okay. Whitey uses prison payphones to brief Joel and the Vanta gang. Joel sends a sleek tinted South Beach ride directly to the garage. Good. Great. So we can put that back into Garvin's story. These are all going to be like probably voiced over, L cuts and stuff. Kind of like almost a pseudo montage. Okay, and we'll go back to Whitey's, his story. Okay, Whitey uses the prison payphone to brief Joel. They went to gang. Yeah, I guess so. And then but that is in his story. So escalation 3.5. And we have to, we'll figure out about the payphone, that logistic technology thing later. All right, and let's see. Back to the story. So Garvin executes his first kill on his attacker using Whitey's guidance. Whitey ensures the yard stays silent, securing total psychological dominance over Garvin. Yeah, that's good. And that should be in Garvin's story. And that should be here. Escalation 2.2. I'm running out of numbers here. Okay. Okay. Cool. And we can do a montage. And then let's go back to Whitey. Okay, let's see what we got here. That's his character. Let's go to a story. The explosion and convergence. Let's see. I love the way that the AIs sort of write for you. They try to help. Let's see. We got 5 minutes left. I think we can cover this. Okay, 1994. The explosion and the convergence. Early to mid 1994, Garvin completes his half sentence and becomes a full-time enforcer at the Vanta gang. Because he is using the cold-blooded survival logic Whitey drilled into him, he becomes incredibly efficient. By mid-1994, he's making a serious name for himself on South Beach as Joe Stoke to a hitman. He's dangerous, infamous, and thinks he owes his entire career to his prison mentor. Yeah, that's true, but it's not really an escalation. It's just sort of storytelling. So I'm going to put it in here. Yep. Okay, good. Go back to Whitey. And survival logic. Could be funny if Garvin has become like a George G.M. James acolyte. That's funny. Oh my god. Wait, we got his character here. That's funny. Okay. Yeah, that's gonna be in his story though. Okay. Escalation 2.1, that's funny. His mom comes to visit, Beatrice. Comes to visit with a new body and new boyfriend. Tells Garvin he's not welcome at home. And then let's see. Okay, and then tells Garvin he's not welcome at home. Sold his stuff. Got new boyfriend. And got new husband. She already remarried. And Garvin makes a comment about George G.M. James. That's funny. Specify. And just you see how he's listening to Whitey. Okay. All right. We're going back to the story. Okay, we don't need that anymore. Whitey's sentence is automatically cut short. He doesn't need a bribe. Sword is over. Yeah, I think cutting his sentence short is good. So they leave him in jail and he's pissed. Right? And then they cut a sentence short. That could be funny. I like that. It's cleaner because I don't need as much logic in the story. I mean, it just could be funny that yeah, there's something there. Let's see. Escalation 3.6. Say 3.7. Just so they don't butt against each other. Whoop. Okay. So the computerized provisional release system simply selects his name to free up a bed. Whitney walks out of the prison gates and returns to South Beach to claim his reward from Joel. Yeah, he never actually gets there. Because Garvin figures it out and then they get the reveal on Roger's show. Let's see. Actually, what if this happens beforehand? What if this does happen that way? And then Garvin goes to get his car. No, because if Whitey's stupid enough to send Garvin to get his car, what if Garvin gets sent by Joel to get his car? So delete that. So he doesn't turn him in, because that way we can get rid of the cops. We can get rid of the... Yep. We can turn this into escalation 4. And then... Yep. Yeah. And then this is... Right? There's a big escalation here, is it? The twist. Wait a second. Oh, this is Whitey's story. Yeah. So this is sort of a twist in Whitey's story here. It's not an escalation. Well, I guess it is an escalation. I'll just leave it at that. I won't overthink it. Okay, let's go back. We can always change it later. But I like that. Okay, so... Okay. The stage is set for 1994. Garvin says the man who saved him in prison is the exact monster who blew up his father. Great. So we got that. Okay. We cleaned up a whole file. About 40 minutes. It might not seem like a lot, but synthesizing all that, now that's in the story. So when we actually create the outline, all these details are just going to slot right in. So the notes, good. yeah, so we got the story of Whitey Jackson pretty fleshed out. The next one we're going to do is Whitey's character, because look at all this backstory we got. And we can clean him up and make him really, really deep. Okay, but that's it for today. Thank you guys if you stuck with me through it. And I will leave you with my usual message, which is, you know, if you want to learn the craft, I'm a professional script doctor, and if you want to learn the exact tools demonstrated in this video that working writers use to write, rewrite, and develop stories quickly, this lecture shows you how. It's in the QR code here. And these tools apply to any form of narrative storytelling, screenplays, novels, comics, television, games, all of it. And this masterclass includes the full scene breakdowns from well-known films and hands-on guidance for anyone serious about telling stories. A portion of every sale supports the Arts Accelerator, a nonprofit dedicated to developing the skills of emerging artists. You can find out more about them at artsaccelerator.org. And that's about it. If you guys stuck with me this far, I want to thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll catch you at the next one.
Sun is